From Africa's creativity frontline, Founders Battlefield returns with Episode 9, When Creativity Becomes Legacy and Survival Becomes Story. This is a journey for founders who started with a gift, fought to survive, and turned their craft into lasting legacy. Host Michael Masharia, once an aspiring architect, now builds systems as a digital visionary, crafting platforms that serve millions across health, tech, and entrepreneurship. His path is proof creativity evolves. He's joined by Priscilla Muchinyi, designer and choreographer, who now dresses the high and mighty while staying rooted in sacred rituals that uplift women and preserve memory. Sylvia Tonui, creative curator and strategist, builds bridges for African creatives, turning cultural stories into global opportunity. And Peter Elungat, prophetic painter, reveals how solitude and spirit turned his studio into an altar, and his work into pieces now held by global collectors. Together, they unpack the shifts from passion to purpose, survival to sustainability, and visibility to legacy. This isn't just creativity. This is Founders Battlefield.
Thank you. We are here again on our episode 9. First, I'd like to thank all of you for following us and keeping up with the conversations, for your comments and feedback at Founders Battlefield. I know that I receive a lot of messages, a lot of LinkedIn conversations, WhatsApp conversations, direct comments on our platforms, and really take back your sentiments. We thank you for your feedback. We thank you for giving us encouragement to continue this journey. We know it's a journey that we are doing for many other people apart from ourselves. And we know we will be able to be the change we want, especially around entrepreneurs who create significant livelihoods. So today, we're going to be a little bit interesting. We are moving into a very interesting, a very interesting, I'll call dimension, which is around creativity and people who build things out of imagination and through their creative hands. And today's topic is about when creativity becomes legacy and survival becomes a story. It's around how you start a journey with talent, and that journey maybe starts becoming more of yes, can it feed me? Can it help me can it help me live my life? And eventually it moves from that to become legacy, where you realize that you're building significant businesses, or even you're leveraging your talent to create art or design or music. But then it becomes legacy and it transcends you to the next generation. So with me are people in that segment who I'm very keen to understand how they've managed to transition into this ecosystem. There's Priscilla. Priscilla I'm really looking forward to understand her journey and share in the journey she has taken through, and I'll then get her to introduce herself. There's Sylvia. Sylvia, who has been creating runways for many artists to become globally acclaimed, but also helping a whole generation of entrepreneurs understand themselves and also become more globally inclined. Then we've got my good friend, Peter Elungat. Elungat is going to run us through what it takes to transform art from a passion to then scaling what he's trying to do and then making it a global name. So it's interesting to have these guests. I'll let them introduce themselves, starting with maybe Peter Elungat, and how you feel your current, you as an individual, plug into this whole ecosystem. I'm your host, Michael Masharia, and having been very excited to have set up this whole platform for engagement. I'm a founder at 76 Technologies and Ponea Health, and I also look at myself as a creative, because technology is also a creative sector, I would say, right? You still build platforms. Those platforms also come from imagination. The only thing is that we use different kind of tools. So I guess I'm in the right place where we can talk about this conversation. So Peter, over to you.
Thank you very much, Mike, for having me here. It's a beautiful platform to be in. And thank you, my colleagues. How did I find myself here?
And who are you?
And okay.
Quick introductions. Yeah.
My name is Peter Elungat from Western Kenya. Growing up in a huge family setting, this is where I am the number 8 of my mom, meaning that I have other siblings from other mothers. So we are 12 or more. Yes, that's a topic for another day. Fine. All of us in this family have something in our fingertips creatively. But looks like myself, I couldn't part with it and call it like part of my journey. It is my journey. It is my life. It is my being. That is basically what I can say. That's what brings me here, my creative world.
We are gonna dissect that significantly for the next 2.5 hours. So I'm looking forward to understand. Very spiritual way of introduction. I think I'm looking forward to this engagement. Sylvia?
Yeah. Hi, Mike.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you for having me here today. My name is Sylvia Tonui, and I consider myself a serial entrepreneur. I'm a mother as well, a friend, a mentor, and I've been in entrepreneurship for about, I would say, 10 years now. So in the grand scheme of things, maybe some would call me a beginner and a storyteller. I'm a storyteller as well, and we'll dissect that a bit later.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Great to have you, Sylvia, on set. I love your outfit. Maybe you'll give us your inspiration
Yes.
about this. Then Priscilla, nice to have you. It was great having lunch with you. I already feel like I know parts of you, but you said, Mike, hold on. I'll tell you at the show. Twende.
It's a pleasure to be here, Mike, and meeting you for the first time. And I would say it's a privilege to be on this space. And I also appreciate my 2 colleagues here, and I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot from them, from just the little that I've already had. So who is Priscilla? My full names are Priscilla Asili Muchinyi. A firstborn in a family of 24 children, I being the firstborn of my mother. And how did my journey for being in the design industry start? It started with my family background. My grandfather, early on in the East African community, moved to Uganda, where he was working with the post office, Uganda. As a result of that, my father moved to Uganda at a very young age. So he went to school in Uganda and also was a graduate of King's College, Budo. My grandfather was very, very particular about education. 1979, February, war broke out in Uganda, and Tororo was invaded. So the Sabasaba war happened in Tororo at that particular time. And I had to run back to Kenya to my mom. To cut the long story short, my father lost everything in a twinkling of an eye. So we had to come back to Kenya.
Your dad now.
My dad lost everything
Did he now come back
in a twinkling of an eye, and he had to come back
to the
with
hut?
my stepmother to the hut. So when I talk of losing everything, I was basically chauffeur-driven to school. I had a driver. My mom had a car that had to take me to school. My first stepmother had a house, children, and the house was a duplicate of the other. That went. And my second stepmother, her house had just started. The construction had just started. And my third stepmother, the land had just been bought. So basically, you are running back. My dad ran back with a bicycle, with a few tools on the bicycle. So why am I saying all this? Later in life, the responsibility of taking care of most of my siblings fell on my shoulders. So my creativity and business mind was created then.
Wow. So you see how life starts. So I think I said it's going to be a very interesting conversation. So we just have to brace for it and learn. So it's always a pleasure when you sit in a table. You think you know people, or you've just met them, but their story is just given more depth and more depth. So first, great. Thank you again for getting here. And I think, Priscilla, thanks for setting the stage, because that's the conversation I want us to have. You need to retrospectively figure out why you're where you are today. Don't say it just happened, because it didn't just happen. We are where we are based on the community that took care of us, the life circumstances that brought you where you are, and the passion in which you instill in what you do is a reflection of that. So we want to live here knowing what is that, okay? And so that others who are looking at us and listening to us can understand that maybe this is part of the journey that they have to go through. I'm just looking at something here, I put some notes, that reads as follows. A poem becomes a protest. A brushstroke becomes a blueprint for healing. A dance becomes defiance against silence. A memory becomes a marketable message. So around that structure, I would like us to jump in and understand how this works and what your journey has been, especially around the topic, how when creativity becomes legacy and survival becomes a story. Because remember, the way she has explained, it became survival. And how did survival become legacy? It's very important to understand how that journey goes. And on top of that, we also need to understand there are 5 pillars we talk about in this journey. We call it the African Founders Operating System. It's a mindset. So think about mindset. What mindset made you have that transformation? So already what you've done, Priscilla, you've shaped us to a point where we are thinking about mindset. The next thing is emotion. What emotions drive you as an entrepreneur? The next one is social. What social fundamentals drive you? We talked about your dad. We talked about, I want to understand Elungat, Sylvia, why you're doing what you're doing. And then there is also what we call strategic. Some decisions that make it become more strategic. And finally, spiritual. So without further ado, I'd like to open the floor, and we now move into our personal journeys. Thanks, Priscilla, for already putting together just what we call a starting point of our conversation, which then now will get us to go deeper. What we try and do is, one, we allow us to share our stories and put everything into context, linking everything to our entrepreneurial capability and founder capability. We come understand the journeys within our societal, how the society views us and what we are doing, and then how we shape communities, then how we shape our country conversations, and those ones who are lucky, how we shape our continent conversations, okay? So that's the journey we will sort of go with. We don't have any bell that tells us stop. You'll know, your body will tell you it's time to stop, because your emotional state, as you stay in the show, will certainly tell you, I think I've said my piece. So over to you, Elungat. Maybe you could start with you.
Hey, bro. And hey, sis, or almost my big sister. Yeah. This is incredible. It also brings me to, you've made me run back to my childhood days, where, Mike, you've actually made me see 2 worlds that are merged together, in the sense that when I look at my studio, I used to have, currently I have some beds, but I used to have a heap of mattresses. I'm mixing the younger days and now, so I create something like a bed using these mattresses, why did I come to have a heap of mattresses and many bed sheets and duvets? It's because first I was building this studio for myself. Yes, I've been renting and I've had this land for many years, but yes, things have pushed me to the corner, and I had 2 old cars, and both of them broken down at the same time. And I'm like, so I'm waiting for this money. Do I repair these cars or I move to my place? My conclusion was, I'm going to my place. I'm not having any attachment to these machines. I sell them at a throwaway price, which I did. And then getting the money, I go, start just a roof above my head. And it was spacious. And once you make a first step, something will happen that the next step will be provided surface or ground for you to step into. And connecting it back to my childhood days, in the village setting, we were like a privileged family, where in one mattress, my parents would be a host for all my cousins and even non-relatives. So it was a home for people. So where you mnapangwa, like you arrange yourselves to fit in one mattress. One blanket covers maybe 5 or 6 of you. And so sharing was so natural. And absence of people around me is so strange. And so the mattress come because when my friends like, hey, Elungat, you moved from Riara studio to Kitengela. Yes, I'm there. Can we come for a workshop or 2 days stay? And the first stay was not actually for creatives. I called the young people and told them we are having conversations around the fire. So basically to have friends around and people around. Because there is a space in between those 2 periods, which we will delve into maybe later. So they came, have the fire, bonfire, and just talk about anything and everything. It was beautiful. And then creatives started coming. And the reason now for the mattresses is basically spread the mattresses down and people sleep there. I didn't know that I'm actually doing a repeat of my childhood days. So why am I having these people come to my studio? Somebody held my hand during my journey of starting how to paint, how to stretch your canvas. So basically drawing and painting, I started emulating my brother because born in a family of creatives. So my eldest brother was one who was really had it better than everyone else. And yes, now I'm sharing my skill with them, giving them paint. So before then, now I'm trying to come in between the 2 spaces. So what happened in my childhood is here, happening to me now, like I'm sharing. And in those childhood days, going out, taking care of animals, we would have something that I would call it dangerous, but it's part of my journey. We would organize fights, like we are coming from this side of the river, and we have other boys from the other side, and then we don't want, there will be a fight, physical fight, and they were arranged like, where Elungat, when yes, I remember, Biko cannot get off my memory. Biko was my cousin, and we would still fight. So the elder brothers and cousins would put a stick in the middle. Hey, huyu jamaa anasema he can beat you. Are you accepting that? So from there's a fight. No enmity. You'd go home with a swollen face or eye or lip, but you'd say, I was stung by a wasp. You don't want your face to be seen during the mealtime, and mealtime, which was also a bonding time. And we would have dog fights. We were so blessed to have a dog which was not so big in size, but he had the fight in him. And I was so bonded with that dog. It was called Jack. And Jack was our hero. So one time, the very emotional part was, Jack had a serious fight with Jim. And Jack's ear was torn. So it's in the evening. And now we have to go to the river and wash Jack so that he doesn't go home bloody. And the bottom line is, I was on the winning side most of the time. And the times that I would lose, and when you feel like, no, I'm not going kuchunga ng'ombe together with you guys. No, you are a woman. So you don't want to be called a woman, and you're a man. So yes, we are going. And you definitely know you are going to face a fight. So you'd fight. How do I relate that to my today's life? Is when anything that anyone says, I am going to do that, the how will be provided. You don't have to care about the who, how, just know you are going for it. But of course, there will be fights around between now, this space, and there. It is the same way I approach my artwork. Yes, this is a blank canvas. And I'm saying like, this is the beginning. Everything is formless and nothing. So on the first day, so it is like, and let there be light to me. That would be the description. Maybe that is the first day, and maybe that is the second day. I also don't know every step in this journey. I didn't tell you that I'm going to have a blue knife stroke followed by a red one. It is basically life unfolding before us. So where you become in sync and accept. The way I work is not the way Mike does. When Mike speaks, he's so precise. And by the way, I marvel how Mike thinks. But it's so natural. He just speaks, we are going to do this, we are going to do this, and this is what we are targeting, and it is. So that precision, for me, it is I allow and I am ready. So what I know is going to come up is this thing is going to happen. And it can also not happen when I'm just seated. I must act. So I must take that step. And in the steps I take, I have attempts along the journey. Like, could this be? Could this be that? Could this be? Just could it be? Could it be? Could it be? Could it be that? Could it be that? There are so many possibilities in everything and anything we include in our lives. So, allow me to be as random as possible. And honestly, once I touch that, it switches me. Like, yeah, fly like you are in creativity. I call it like imagine yourself walking with your eyes closed, never thinking or imagining you can knock on a wall or stumble into a ditch. There is absolutely nothing. So when you walk like that, I call it absolute freedom. And incorporating that to where I am right now, doing art as a professional for 27, close to 28 years now. Along the way, I meet young men. Yes, that time I think mostly men. Now, young women are also getting into the craft. So this guy tells me, hey, Elungat, now I can't say I don't know you. It will sound rude because this is somebody whose first canvas he found in my studio. The first paint, the leftovers, like, Elungat, can I pick some paint that the leftovers here? Go ahead, just pick them there. And there are also two sides of that. So this person picks the paint, and then I didn't know that it was a transformation for them to be creatives completely. And then I have this space that I call an open space for the creatives. I call my home a home of the creatives. The first thing that happens when I receive the creative guests, I tell them, number one, for you to unleash your full potential on this place. Don't feel like I'm a stranger getting into a stranger's territory. So there's a certain way I need to carry out myself. Bring your complete self here. When you are fully present with your whole self, with your all, with your whole being, then you will unleash your creativity. Then, how do I have a space in empowerment and entrepreneurship? I actually didn't say like, what I want to do with my space is empowerment, entrepreneurship. No, I think we no and yes, because when I walked into the first space where I met artists that I only had read on newspapers, I was like, wow, and I'm going to work and share space with these amazing people. Seeing Patrick Mukabi, I remember Richard Kimathi, Justus Chalo, I'm just mentioning a few. It was a privilege. I'm working with, wow, great guys. Mike, I'm out. I'm here with you, yes. And so, I'm here with these guys, and now I have my space here. So, during that time, my early days, I was reminded by somebody who visited me 27 years later, which is a few months ago, to my studio space. And he told me, Elungat, this is what you spoke, and it is right here. You remember I was sitting next to Mary. Mary now is the late. And You had your brush on your ear and you said, you know what? I'm going to build a beautiful studio. It is like covered with vegetation and it will be a place for healing. He spoke and he was like nearly shedding tears. And myself, I thought this understanding of speaking things to existence, of course with action, you cannot speak and sit. Maybe I'm dating it back to maybe 10, 15 years, but it's not. So somebody came to pat me on the shoulder like, what I'm seeing here, I'm seeing it a second time. This was the description I got during that time. And so that is what is happening today. So there are some things that are engraved in us and we may not know it. So some mirror around us, which is ourselves, are mirrors to others. You need us to reflect this. We need you to reflect this. So everybody is every other person's mirror. And having this home, which outgrew me, like this space can actually be used for art workshops. And this space is actually becoming a home for creatives. And I was actually speaking with my friend Dan. I was telling him, hey, bro, this place needs to be the center of all arts and including music, all arts, not only...
But one thing, you see, I find artists are incredible. You see, like I can never stop listening to you. But I think you're already in a trance. Already I can see you in a trance. So you're going into a conversation that we're going to have.
Okay.
Which is how do you build a platform for others? Okay, but we'll come to that.
Okay.
And what I would hoping to do, by the end of this episode, we need to have finished this canvas or whatever you want to call it. Not finished, maybe started a journey on it.
Yes.
Maybe the next time we have a live show, I'm thinking we also we plan to have a live show in August. Having this on live show where we have audience, it's going to be interesting. So I would like you to also consider by the time we are done, feel free to, if you feel you need to go to this art piece and continue and finish it. Not finish, whatever you want to do with it. Because you told me it's form that continues living.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So it may be incomplete today, tomorrow it can turn into something else.
Yes.
So you want to see what it will become,
Yes.
to, at least by the end of this session. And then, and not to skip you, but hold the thoughts. Remember, not to skip you, Sylvia. I want to go, because I know how your story fits into this. I want to go to Priscilla. It's going to be an interesting show because the artist, their expression is very interesting. And your way of communicating. You said very many amazing things like you skipped my show, umeenda lakini iko sawa. So Priscilla, for you, it's an interesting conversation, no? I was looking at you and I'm hoping the producer, when they do this editing, they able to intermix between, as he's speaking, vis-a-vis our expression. Because I think you need to show the expression between that interchange. I find it very fascinating because I was looking at both the ladies and it's like they were glued to the whole conversation. So it'll be interesting to see the expression of everybody else. So Priscilla, over to you. Your journey around what, I think we've understood Elungat, how you ended up where he is, right? For you to be you've explained at least one bit. Now let's go to the next phase. When 1979, we have had war. Mzee amejenga nyumba tatu. No, you just bought a plot. Amejenga nyumba mbili. Moja amejenga, ingine anafanya duplicate. Then war breaks down. And he had only built one small hut there. Maybe he should have built one big house in Kisumu. Maybe. That's what he should have done. But look, in hindsight, we'll know what happened. Over to you.
Of course, he wasn't expecting to come back because that was not the kind of life he lived as a person. So my mom, of course, invited my father home with his baggage. And after they settled just a little bit, my father started constructing, of course, different houses within the compound, get the children to have their own house, trying to duplicate what he had in Uganda. But of course, the financial part of it was now down because he had literally lost everything. When I got married to my husband, I moved to Mombasa because my husband's first posting was in Mombasa. So I started having the babies, and they came fast and furious. Yeah. So I was like, now what do I do? These children have come. Am I going to sit at home? I'm not the idle type. I don't like sitting idle, and my hands are always, I like doing things with my hands. I'm always like, something needs to be done with these hands. So I told my husband, I would like to learn dressmaking, something in fashion and design. And at that particular time, there was a school in Mombasa. So I decided to go there. My husband didn't even have enough money anyway. Finally, he was able to get a job interview in Nairobi. That is 1987. We moved to Nairobi in July. And again, now this is a new territory. So basically, Mombasa was the first big town I was going to. Now I was coming to Nairobi, which was even bigger. So coming to Nairobi now, where he got a job, after just a few months, he was supposed to go for studies in Canada. I told him, congratulations, but when you reach there, the first thing that should be on your mind is a sewing machine for me. And true to his promise, he came back with a sewing machine. It was that small table machine, but it is electric. Now, I could go to town. I go to the shops where they have all these fabrics. Once I see a fabric that catches my eye, I'll tell the shopkeeper, can you cut me 3-4 meters or 5 meters or something? I don't know what I'm going to make. The design will come when I spread that fabric on the table. The design comes as I'm cutting. So that is how I started cutting and taking to the boutiques in Nairobi. And I take one, I'm told, okay, bring a dozen of this, 2 dozens of this, and I am alone on a small table machine. Mike, I used to make clothes. Maybe you wear glasses because you have a problem with your eyes. I wear glasses because I wore my nerves because of looking at the needle when I'm pushing it inside the sewing machine. That's how I put on my glasses, because I strained my nerves. So in 2012 or 2013, I set up a shop. It was to help a young girl whom I'd taken in, but in essence, I was doing it for me. So I opened a tailoring shop again, basically with no organization at all, but I did open a tailoring shop. I put one tailor there. And now I could bring in fabric, because number one, I'd done textile design. I'd done entrepreneurship. So I had a little bit knowing the ledgers are done this way, how I can keep my reports and stuff like that. So in 2012, I opened a shop in Umoja area, just a small place, and I put a part of somebody there. And then there was an office girl. But I got nothing from it. And that had happened before that. I had even opened a salon. I closed it down. After that, I opened a typesetting shop, like where people could come to do typesetting, to do letters written for them. And it was somewhere on Luthuli Avenue. And it was doing very well, only to realize, because I'm not there most of the time, the girl was actually doing her own work instead of my work. So the same to this tailoring shop when I opened, I wasn't getting much because it was going to somebody's pocket. So I decided I did not want to have my shop in Umoja, because I was dreaming fashion house. That is what was on my mind. My mind was, when will I have this, the Chanels and the Venice and the Italy. platforms were just ringing in my mind. So when the retrenchment at work came, I was already on Moy Avenue, and I had 2 tailors. At that time now I had gotten 2 tailors. So I remember going out in the field. Sometimes I reach where fabric is, and I'm looking for ways to get the fabric to my shop. I make private arrangement with the shop owners, the traders there, to have the fabric shipped into Kenya. And my colleagues would laugh at me. He was like, Priscilla, are you really a businesswoman, or you're making a joke of yourself? Then I say, okay, sawa tu. So basically up to that point, I was not making any profit. I was not making, but I was moving up. With whatever little money I could get, I was moving up. So come 2017, now when things were thick, I just went back to my shop. And in 1 month, Mike, 1 month, I had moved from 2 tailors to 8 tailors. I had to look for machines. I had to look for space. I now had to move from the shop I was upstairs, and came to the first floor of the building. The shop was going for 130,000 at that time. I moved to that one. I was able to pay my rent. I was able to pay my people. I was able to formally register my business properly. I was able to do all the NSSFs, the NHIFs for my staff. And within that time, I was able to open another smaller shop. On the same building, I opened the second branch, and now that one was to sell ready-made. Because if you remember the former regime, they introduced African wear on Fridays, where it was, you had to buy Kenya, build Kenya, something like that. So it was traditional clothes. So on Thursdays, we had all these people running around. Tutapata wapi nguo? Tomorrow we have to put on kitenge. Hatuna, we don't have. And I said, what the hell? Why don't we make ready-made dresses and ready-made shirts for these guys? So that's how now I opened the second shop, just to sell the ready-made dresses. And then within no time, I felt there was need in Kisumu. So I went on Mega City. I was able to get a shop on Mega City, the mall. And I opened another boutique there to sell ready-made clothes from our shop in Nairobi. So the clothes were being tailor-made in Nairobi and then sent to Kisumu. 1 month after we were retrenched, the funds were released in my former office, and we were asked to go back. Of course, according to the labor laws, you have to reapply. I did not go back because...
You can't.
Yeah, I did not go back. So basically that has been my journey. Though just when I thought now I was in the prime, now I was in the peak, came COVID. So COVID comes, and during COVID, of course, who is going to go looking for clothes? You're busy looking for masks or how to survive, or literally, because people are not going to work, some people have been retrenched, places are closed. That is the time I said, this is the best time for me to get my fashion house. So I moved to Westland, somewhere on Raptor Road, and I was able to get a 3-bedroomed house. And I furnished it. I literally called in an interior designer, and he designed the 3-bedroomed house. I had my fashion house at last. However, again, because of the COVID, the way it went on for the 2-3 years that followed, we literally couldn't keep up. Things were just going from bad to worse. So I moved to a smaller place, then again to a smaller place where I am at the moment. But what I would like to tell you is this. At that particular time, to this day, I've not lost a single client. And I've had corporate clients come to me. I have not looked for a client in my life. I've never gone out to ask for tenders. They find me. In fact, I am told, go to this platform, please fill out this form for us. I wouldn't like to mention their names because it's a bit of a private contract. But at the moment, I do dress a few women reps in the parliament. And they follow me. Even when I left the fashion, I came to a smaller place. They are still with me. And they don't order few clothes. It's a lot. I'm like on my toes, literally, to get this done. Yeah. So basically, at the moment, that has been my journey. And I've had also a few students call me from nowhere. I'm like, who knew I exist? That's usually me. Who told these people exist? Like, can I come for attachment in your shop? I would like to come. I've had a few models asking to model with us. Yeah. But basically, that is how far I am. But with COVID again, I had to close the Kisumu shop. I had to close it down, and I had to close the second shop. So I just ran one, but I still have the same clients and more.
Have you gone online?
Yeah, yes. Not the way I would like it to be, but yes.
We'll come to that. And that, I think, what a story. Because, it's every time I am on this show, sometimes I'm not sure if there's formula. I think your story it joins a lot of dots. Elungat's story joins a lot of dots. Maybe this is how the artistic ecosystem works. And it's quite interesting because it's like your passion has to keep on being pulled. It's like you don't run away from that talent. So that's interesting. And we'll talk more about that whole Kenyan thing. You talked about Mitumba. You talked about go in Kenya, build Kenya, build Kenya, buy Kenya, build Kenya. How that again has transformed your business by us consuming. We've talked about how people take your designs and go with it. So issues of copyright. And that I think, and then you talked about DIT, Director of Industrial Training, and the critical role they do in comes on. I think that brings us to Sylvia. And I think why we brought Sylvia on the show is the challenges I've had from Peter and his journey. You almost created your own vehicle or platform to build the others. This conversation we had, Priscilla, you've talked about what you've gone through. I think Sylvia's role in the country today and what she does as a business is exactly shortening pathways for people like you. So I think what you've gone through could have been cut and accelerated, right? And I was telling, over lunch, you're talking about Steve McQueen, the famous British, designer. Alexander McQueen. So Steve is musician.
Yeah, I think so.
It's Alexander McQueen, sorry. Alexander McQueen, and knowing where they come, people like Tom Ford and the rest, from platforms that those countries build for those guys, that then those platforms they create those artists, and those guys become global without even realizing it. And yes, they have two benefits. It's the same country in terms of input. So Sylvia, I think thank you for saying Alexander McQueen. Maybe you could join for us the dots how you fit into this whole ecosystem, because then between yourself, between Priscilla in the whole fashion industry, and look at in the art, it will be interesting to understand how you fit in here, and then we can now take the conversation more into our journeys.
Okay. Yes. So thank you, Mike. So as I mentioned before, I am an entrepreneur, and I'll just quickly speak about how I got here.
Okay.
So.
And then you have other businesses if you have. Okay.
Yes. So I grew up in Kericho. My father was a storyteller, and I think I'm a storyteller. So even as I've set up different businesses, and I'll get to that, I have so many people asking me, and they're saying, but you have a honey brand. Sometimes I see you working in fashion. Sometimes I see you working in fine art. Sometimes I see you working with pharmaceuticals, for example. And they're like, why are you a jack of all trades? And I think the glue for all the work that I do has been storytelling. And, just listening to Priscilla and Elungat speaking about their journeys as creators, I and let me just take a step back. So what I do currently is I'm a project manager by profession. I started by studying marketing in Kenya. And then while I was in USIU, I studied International Business Administration in USIU. And then while I was there was an opportunity for a scholarship to Japan by the Japanese government to do an exchange program. So I did go to Japan. And while I was in Japan, I was introduced. So what I'm wearing actually is a Japanese kimono. And then I'll speak about everything else that I'm wearing. So while I was there, I was really introduced to excellence and design as well. You've spoken about fashion design, you've spoken about art. And then I moved back, I graduated, and then I went to work in South Africa. In South Africa, I worked for a fashion magazine called Elle Magazine and a technology magazine called Stuff Magazine. So I was doing marketing for very diverse products. But at the heart of everything was storytelling. And when I moved back to Kenya, just getting all this experience working, especially in the creative economy, when I moved back, I realized it's a very different market. And I remember I moved back to Kenya, applied for a job in marketing at SOS Children's Villages, but then I realized I'm actually a creative. I don't like working in corporate, so I set up my own business. And in the fashion industry, I started working with Anne McCrath, who is a Scottish citizen, moved to Kenya, and then set up a fashion house called Kiko Romeo. And it was really a great introduction into the fashion industry. And after that, then I set up my own company. And what we do is market linkage for the creative economy. So artists, fashion designers, people who do accessories. And just sitting here and listening to all your stories, I realize artists like to create, they like to tell stories. They really don't like the business side of things. Or as much as, even if they do have a passion for the business side of things, they would rather be creating. Am I?
You're right.
Yes.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So the more I speak to creators in the creative economy space, all of them say the same thing. I don't want to do ledgers. I don't want to do marketing. I don't want to do distribution. I just want to sit and create. Because we've sat here and listened to such phenomenal stories, and all of them is all about your art and how interested you are in creating. So I saw a gap in the market that there's so many creative economy practitioners who need business skills, and that's how we stepped in. So I've been doing this for about 7 years, and what we do is link artists and fashion designers to markets. I'll start with Kenya. What we do is set up pop-up shops where we have exhibitions for artists, and also fashion designers can sell their designs. And we also do showcasing, because that's very important. You mentioned that your husband very many times asked, when am I going to see your designs on a runway? And sometimes people think it's just entertainment, but actually if you see a garment on a runway, that's when it really comes to life. And it's very important to do showcasing. So what we do, besides the pop-up shops, my organization also organizes fashion showcasing, just so that people can see the designs on a runway. And we have, and I'm a consultant as well. My master's was in project management. So I come in to fill in the gaps that creatives are struggling with. And one of the showcasing opportunities that we do, I consult for the Tribe Hotel, because they've been doing, next year will be their 15th year where they've been showcasing fashion designers through a really big fashion show called Tribal Chic. So that's what we do. And then in 2019, I had the amazing opportunity to work with the British Council as a consultant as well. And we developed a program, everything that you've mentioned here. When I moved back to Kenya, when I speak to fashion designers, when I speak to artists, all of them will say they face very similar challenges. They struggle with access to markets. They struggle with financing. They struggle with how do you price your time? Because you guys, artists are so passionate. So sometimes you will create something for 6 months, and then a Kenyan buyer will come and tell you, I want to buy that painting for 20,000 shillings. So that was a really huge challenge for a lot of the artists that we work with. They're like, how do we price our time? How do we price our production? So what we did was create a business incubator for fashion designers. And initially we opened it up to early stage artists. And we were like, you know what? We'll work with artists who've only been in business for a maximum of 5 years, minimum of 3 years. But when you actually speak to veteran fashion designers, they say we were literally fumbling in the dark. Nobody gave us any guidance. So your story, I've listened to it and it's very interesting, but it's not unique to a lot of artists. They say, I went back into employment, but my heart was really calling me towards art. And I didn't really have a guide on how to scale my business. So it was very important for us to set up a business incubator for young fashion designers under a program called Creative DNA, funded by the British Council. And it was basically everything that you have talked about. Where do I source fabrics? How do I price my time? How do I produce sustainably? Because you mentioned that when you were using very harmful dyes that when you dispose them into you're literally pouring them out, and a lot of artists were saying, I don't know how to develop a fabric sustainably. So we worked with partners who could help with that. We've also access to market, as I mentioned before, is really important. So besides just providing this business training for a lot of our fashion designers, we also ensured that they're not only showcasing in Kenya, but they're also showcasing outside. As much as we say, buy Kenya, build Kenya, sometimes they say prophets are sometimes your art, if you're featured on New York Times, then the people locally in Kenya become more interested in your art. Yes. So it's a chicken and egg situation. You're like, should I market my products here locally and build a local clientele before I venture into export? But then a lot of times, sometimes you have to start internationally so that people locally can appreciate your work. So we are very aware of that, and through the British Council, next month actually we're taking fashion designers to the Africa Fashion Week London to showcase. And sometimes also your art, we live in a very global space. In this digital era, once you put your work in the digital space, you'll be amazed that you will find someone who will resonate with your art, not just locally, but then in Uganda, in London, in New York. So international showcasing is really important. So that's how we come in to this space, is basically to bridge that gap and help artists to just focus on their art while we handle the other bits that are not too interesting to the artists.
Wow. So you see, we found each other here in this conversation, which, as you can see, the journey you've gone could have been shortened. But sometimes I wonder if you have to go through that journey, does God put you through a path, or is it, as they say, is it in all God's timing, right? Maybe your journey is somebody else who feels I've got so much talent, but I don't know my pathway. I don't know where to be. And sometimes I also feel artists, we are so told, go back to people. There's so many people around who don't appreciate. Yeah. So sometimes you wonder, and I look at your journey, look at the 80s, you're in that whole journey, 90s. Going back to employment was softer, but you felt you're so not fulfilled, right? And the same thing with Elungat, what you're trying to do today. So I'd like to I'd like to speak to those 5 dimensions we talked about. And I would like to go a little bit deeper into them. We talked about 5 things. You guys start thinking about it. The first thing is the issue of mindset, right? And the issue of emotional connection to what you do, and the strategic nature in which you think about your business. And then also the social side, the community connections, You talked about going to some of the people you're doing fabric and you're doing designs for, right? That's also a social connect. You talked about never having to market and get customers. That's also social. That's how you become sustainable. Then you talked about spiritual. Okay, you said even you have to put specs, not like me because I'm on computers. You is because the detail, the stitching, the everything, right? So, and to do that, maybe I could throw a question to you, Elungat. Who buys this art? But let me qualify. No, let me first ask the question. Who buys this art?
I'm really blessed that I'm stretched all through. Like, I have many of my buyers in Kenya spreading out internationally also. So I have quite a number of collectors that I can go to their house and see my work, and that gives you a special feeling like a rebirth. Seeing a painting that you did maybe 20 years ago and you meet it now, it is as raw as it was then. Yeah, it just blows my mind up. Yes, basically Kenya and all over, I would say.
Now, I'd like to confess one thing. When I turned 50, which was this year.
Including Mike.
Yeah. See, when I turned 50, interesting, I used to think, I'm not a big person of celebrating my birthday, really. I always push it back. I'm not too keen.
Yeah.
But I said when I turned 50, I was going to do something for myself, And many people would say, let's go to Miami, let's go do, I don't know where, let's do things. Those things I've done. You've done. There's nothing more. I don't need to go and overdo it. I said, what do I do? Apart from this show, which is also something I opted to do at 50, I said, I'm going to thank myself in two ways. I'm going to get an art piece that I can transfer to my children. But I also said, what else what art will it be? Believe it or not. So, and I'm going to come to your shop. My next show, I'm going to have your attire, Priscilla. Nakuja. So, as a matter of fact, I've been thinking with one of our advisors has been telling me, Mike, why don't you put African wear? Look, you're putting on all this American stuff, which is maybe even done locally here. So I told myself that I'm going to surprise myself and buy and get something. So I have been going to Elungat. I've been going to galleries. And one of the things we're going to show, in our show, the producer will sort of put some of your works and you can see what you're talking about. So I looked at, one day I went to visit Elungat in the place he called. One day, it's a journey. You have to have commitment to go. And I went to his gallery and I went to my friend's house and I saw his art and I've been thinking, who is this Elungat? Then one day I've been called for some cocktail in somebody's house. And what do I see there? Singing Elungat, doing a poem. And I say, which Elungat is this one? Is it the one with the art piece? And I can tell you, Elungat, I bought myself this 50. I don't even think I could afford it, to be honest. He's not telling me it's not cheap. So I had to call him and tell him, Baba, this, I need it. This is for me. This is soul for me.
Yeah.
Okay? And I remember it was a journey to stretch it,
Yes.
to take it to the shop. It was dated 2018. So I thought it was for me like a rebirth. I feel like 2018 is when I looked at just things in my life went like this. But then at the same time, I thought when I met him, maybe this art will always remind me and give me a position. So I actually ended up buying art from Elungat. One of the pieces I like, it's 1.9 meters by 1.9 meters. It is such an amazing piece of art that I bought for my 50th. So it's like, for me, it's something that I understand the value and I see the future of where I can transcend this art. If I was to leave this country and settle elsewhere, the one thing I would carry, everything else, apart from my family and people who are in my life, one thing I would not leave behind. I would leave my clothes. I don't need too much, unless you've made for me a very amazing, where will I get your stuff in Europe? I will carry that art piece. It will be the first thing I would hang in my house. You see, so it shows you that things are going on. So that's one question I wanted to ask you. Well, how do you do this? And then And for Priscilla, and I think coming back to our conversation is about mindset. Let's speak to the mindset. I'm sure if it's for artists like you and people like Sylvia, when you guys think about mindset, and we looked at the 5 variables as founders, what's your mindset? For you to create, for you to build, for you to know, to feel, what do you start with first? Is it your mind? Yeah, I think you need all this, right? What is that common DNA that you have to have? Is it the emotional side? Is it the mindset side? Sylvia said you guys want to create, right? Not necessarily be strategic, right? Maybe you're strategic anyways, I don't know, right? So what do you think works? What do you think is what, out of those 5 pillars, what do you think resonates with you most? Any of you can speak.
You can speak.
For me, I think it's both. My mindset is, I know what I want. I know where I'm going with this. There may be some challenges on the way, but I know what I'm looking for. And I know socially, if you really look at, if you are tailoring or making clothes, and normally, people look at you as somebody who didn't go to school. Like you have no education. They expect making clothes should be somewhere in Kariobangi, somewhere in Uhuru Market, And that's why you will get, when most people come to the shop, they'll tell you, but this thing I can go and make it in Kariobangi or in Uhuru Market for only 1,500 shillings. So the question is, are you going to take that and let it bring you down? No, you become very humble. Tell the person, okay, it's fine. Actually, it's an open market, and everybody is free to shop where you want. However, this is what we are providing. You see, this is what we are giving. So you have to have that mindset of wanting to succeed, wanting to do it. Because many times I've been brought down. Many times people have told me, the economy is bad, things are bad. Just funga tu, just close and go home. Like for now, at the moment, I'm moving out of Nairobi, but I'm not moving my work. Because somebody told me that name, just the name of your company, Salibra, you can sell that name. Because it is known. I'll give you a good example. The other day we had guests in my house from Germany. And they asked me, can you do so? So I'm like, yeah. And he looked at me and the way you are saying it, you don't seem serious. I'm like, no, you want a suit? We can make it for you. And he asked me, okay, we are about to leave. I'm like, okay, we can maybe take measurements and then I'll send it over. So he said, fine, he ordered for 2. And when I say German, you know what I mean. Germans are perfectionists. Believe you me, they are perfections. Even when a pin is down, they'll tell you, pick up that pin, they'll see it. So my husband was laughing at me. Hey, utawezana? Will you manage? I said, okay, wacha tuone. So I made the 2 suits. And just before the suits went, when they had gone, because they had already left, they told me they had a relative who was really oversized, and they could not get a suit in the shop for this person. And basically, I remember when we made the coat, I tried it on and it was on my knees. That's how big the person was. And around the waist, like the whole tape went, and they had to add. So we did a Zoom meeting to take the measurements. We took the measurements via Zoom, and I took the suits. And the tailor was asking me, are you sure? Are you sure? I'm like, okay. He took the measurements. I was directing the person on Zoom. And believe you me, the suit went. The next thing was screams on the phone. They're like, oh my God, they are so beautiful. They fit, and we are ordering for more. So even as I speak, I have some suits that I have to ship back to Germany. And this just tells you where I am, where my heart is. You see, I would like to move my space, my little area into what I've always wanted. Yes, COVID may have come. It may have put me down, but I'm still moving on. I'm still moving until somebody tells me, no, you have to stop. No, somebody can't tell me, but maybe life can tell me stop. As for now, we are really trying to work hard with the way the economy is and try to see what we can do to move to maybe the next step. There have been also calls for aggressive social media. Maybe I've delayed this a little bit because of the timelines and what I have, what I'm doing, what I'm working on has been a bit of a delay for me, because now you're busy concentrating on this and following clients. And sometimes most of my clients don't want even to deal with the people in the shop. So they come there, they say, oh, where's Priscilla? You're not there. So I'm trying also to learn how to tell them, okay, you can deal with them. They are trained. So they can tell you what you want, and they're able to do that. No, come back here. You see. So it is, I'm between a rock and a hard wall at that particular, in that particular area, because I really need a situation where my clients, when they come, especially when they are coming to the shop, because most of the time they don't come. It is make and send. So I send all over the country or wherever I have to send. There was one time a client got me online also, Namibia. Yes, I've been online, but it is not as much as the world would want me to be. A client from Namibia got me online, and I had to make several pieces to Namibia again. So I've had clients outside who get me on social media, and they ask for stuff to be made and sent. Yeah.
So it's interesting because you're seated next to Sylvia. That's what she does. So I guess I feel you're emotional to your brand, which is why it's an emotive brand. And there's also collective empowerment. You're very proud to see from a social point of view, to see how many people are being empowered as your tailors and everything. And maybe it's a calling. You think about what you've had to go through, but you're still at it. And that brings us to the challenge of this kind of businesses. Scalability. How do you clone yourself? How do you scale this business? And Sylvia, here's a challenge you have in front of you. There is Priscilla. She has a brand. She has quality. She has been through the ropes. She's got customers you can hear from Namibia, Germany, wherever. What does it take from your end to work with Priscilla so that in a year's time, we have that conversation? And that is really an industry issue. How do you replicate? How do you build a sustainable business? Once you've stopped, I don't think right now you're building your business. Your children are much older. Maybe you're not, I don't think you're already, your business can feed you, you can do whatever. So it's beyond survival. Mm-hmm. How do we take our business in this creative space to the next level?
Okay. So, I mean, the creative space is very vast and diverse. And just, I even want to add on to what you asked before. And what I've always said is even, monetizing art can be very, and it can be a very emotional topic. and if you speak to a lot of artists, they're actually afraid, sometimes even afraid to price, because this is something that you hold so dearly to your heart. And my experience has been, especially dealing with buyers, has been that the most authentic pieces of art, pieces of fashion, are what sells the most. So every single designer has their own personal DNA inside. I think artists are angels sent by God, similar to geniuses. There's very few of them. And I think their art is a gift to humanity. So I always tell people, stay authentic, even when sometimes you're like, no, but actually when I go online, people want this fashion piece to look a certain way. I always tell people, stay authentic. There will be a market that will be interested in your art. And onto your question about scalability and specific to the fashion industry, I think, especially if you're doing it for sustenance, I always say that have your bread and butter pieces that your clones can replicate. You have the ready-to-wear line. I always tell fashion designers, if you do already have that ready-to-wear line, your tailors can replicate that very easily. It's a skill that you can pass on so that you can then free up your space, free up your time to then deal with the either, like the piece that you mentioned that was not your ordinary piece that you're sending to Germany. So you have space to concentrate on those things because there's certain things that tailors can do. Over time, if you're passing on your craft onto your tailors, they'll be able to do your bread and butter pieces so that it frees up time for you to do your more customized pieces. Yeah.
So that's a good advice. So you're saying that when you stretch yourself and do too many designs, then unless you've automated that whole process, you're caught in a situation, sort of.
You won't be able to meet any of that demand.
That's relating to what Priscilla is saying, right?
Yes.
And I believe that maybe you guys need to. I think there's a tipping point to this because last week we hosted. Last week we hosted episode. Is it episode 8? We hosted Wandia of Vivo. Mm-hmm. It's very interesting again business because she's also in the retail space. You're in I think you've taken the direction of African, but also you're saying you can do suits, so it can work, right? So it's interesting to understand what's next. How do you scale this business? How do you make sure you can live this? What happens next? What tomorrow you decide to retire? I'd like you to leave that thought process. What are you going to do next? What happens to your craft? If you decide to retire and you decide I'm going to stay in, I don't know if your up country is still Western or you want to go to Mombasa, what happens to your business then? But then as you think about that, I want to sort of chip in on Elungat and ask a very, very interesting question around you are saying you're training people, okay? I would assume that many people who train people, especially you've got gifted, you're here to finish this, but you're gifted. So what many people are very selfish, that I have talent, let me die with a talent so that your art pieces will have more and more value. No, you can argue that way. You say, it's only me who can do this kind of design or whatever you want to say. Why are you training others in your craft, knowing that it will maybe dilute you, okay? And knowing that other people may say, let me go for, I know that guy who Elungat has trained, I can deal with. Why have you gone out of your way to say I'm going to train others? And eventually, the more of you, the more it may dilute your art, maybe or maybe not. I don't have a solution. I'm not saying that's the case. Maybe it even amplify you better. Okay? What's your take on that?
Okay. What I do in my studio or in my journey of being an artist and a mentor is I help somebody to bring out the best of who they are. I actually don't encourage them to have a miniature of an Elungat. I discourage that because I want you to come as you are. It's like singing. I don't want to sing like so-and-so. I want you to have the best of your voice. So it's the same thing in creating artworks like paintings or sculpture. I encourage these young people to bring out the best of who they are. And I've actually been excited by seeing a few of them, and wow. After just one visit or stay in my studio for 3 days, the transformation I see in their works is like, wow. So they take their own direction. They build their own nests their own way. I don't encourage a miniature of an Elungat. But along the way of mentorship, you will realize that naturally you will tend to lean to your master. But after some time, you get your path. It's like, it's not a junction that goes and give you a 90 degrees turn or a V turn. It is a gradual deviation. Or somebody just had something for their own, for themselves, and you just see something that needs to be done. Just an adjustment. Can't you think along this line? What about? It is actually suggestions. You don't create rules to them. I would suggest this, but you are the master of your work. So also encouraging people to be your miniatures, as I would call them, limits them, because imitation is limitation. I think that is a title I read from a certain book. I don't even remember the author, I'm sorry, but just reading it, like, imitation is limitation is so practical. I thought, like, I don't need the details. I got everything in this statement. So basically that.
So at what point do you think you're at the tipping point and you now I'm onto a great thing? Because I would imagine there's somebody who must be saying somewhere, I got Elungat's art at a good deal, right? Somebody else who came and said, I'm going to pay whatever price or the price that you've published. And your art is not, I have been to their gallery. I see it $18,000, $19,000, just to make sure that the audience understand what you're talking about.
Yep.
His art pieces is $18,000, $22,000, $8,000. It's $1 million. So last time we went to the art gallery, you had several pieces there worth 15 million, right?
Yep.
So at what point, maybe there's a time when you would have put every art and the same art would have been, what I, for instance, acquired from you was 2018. Maybe the price point then was very different today at 2025. At what point do you know you're at the tipping point? And you now I could price.
Pricing is actually a gradual thing, just like you develop your work. You relate with it at heart level. Like, how would I price this? It just speaks. When you feel like it's too much, it resonates with your heart. And at the same time, I've been looking at the international art markets and see the highest paid living artists, just trying to relate with mine. And I'm like, okay, what is this that gives this artist from the UK or Vienna or Italy a price tag of £10,000 pounds or $100,000, $500,000, $1 million, and he's a living artist. And that tag of a living artist, it's so unfair that we have this pricing of living and deceased artists. So when I die, because we will all die, then my prices just go beyond the roof. Mm. And everybody is like, who is this Elungat? And I think it is high time you guys need to buy our works. And really, maybe that I throw it to you. Mm-hmm. Yes, because you can actually see practically, like our prices compared to them, you know them, are not the same. And when I look at the work without prejudice, I realize, yes, I command that kind of price. But anyway, all the same, my vision comes to a point where I'm saying, I have this ladder from the ground going up, and I'm walking up. Yes, I'm not touching the ground, but the ground is visible. I look up and it's vanishing into the blue. This narrows down to my painting that I call Tunnel in the Sky, the one I showed you the images. Sending you the images and videos of some of them. Like, the sky is not the limit. You get to the sky and realize, oh my God, there are so many avenues, there are so many tunnels to walk through. So I don't get to this point that I feel arrived. It's a word, no. I have a big dream ahead of me. Number one, for example, I've started realizing it. Just started. When I see creatives come to my studio, and then not only creatives, by the way, I've had people who come to my place because they just want to calm down their emotions. And yes, for healing, basically. So when I see that, I say, okay, this is the beginning of that. And now I've also seen people heal by, I tell people you don't have to be an Eliud Kipchoge to run. Everybody runs. So just paint. You don't have to paint, to have the so-called talent to paint, Just come. You can actually hold this palette knife and smear this paint here. So everybody can do that. But there's something that happens when you do not have these walls. I'm afraid of making a mistake. So break those walls. I'm afraid of being criticized. Break those walls. How will people take me? Break those walls. Allow me, this is what is coming. I'm just random sometimes. Sure. Being a creative, I liken it to being able to stand stark naked on a platform. People will come and look at you and say, no, how do you do that? And somebody will say, wow, looking great. You're so bold. How you are daring. Yes. So regardless of what they say, that is none of your business. But this is who I am. So being able to stand as, this is me. So the tipping point is actually not there per se to say, ni hapa. It's not. It's a continuous ladder. This ladder is not just a continuous straight. In this ladder, you could get a tilting point where, yeah, it is kind of a plateau, or it takes you down and then up, and then, but the thing is, keep moving. Did I say something?
Yeah.
You said a lot. You said the theme under which you create. And I think that is the beauty in what we have, right? Let's, as we now, I always say, I told you guys that you find it interesting that we'll be sit here for 2 hours something. You won't even realize time was gone because your mind gets into some sphere, right?
Yes.
And for me, let's now let's amplify ourselves at a country level and ask ourselves certain questions. What's the future of artists from a Kenyan perspective? Okay, what could we be doing better? Priscilla talked about certain things that pivoted our life in both ways. She talked about Mitumba that came and had a significant dent in our business. If maybe Mitumba had not come in 91, maybe should have taken off. You'd not even be going to those UN jobs and Canadian jobs. Maybe should have taken off. Most likely should have. Some countries like Rwanda have banned Mitumba. We, I think, are conflicted. Whether we should do it or not, I'm not sure. We have our own problems. There's another country that has banned Mitumba. Which one? So Rwanda has done it. There's also another African country that has done it. South Africa doesn't accept even entertain Mitumba business. And you can see how their business has flourished. Is that correct? A lot. South Africa, everything you buy there, manufactured there, or moving there, right? Nigeria, to a large extent, value their clothes. I remember, for me, when I was doing lots of business in Nigeria, I started feeling funny. I'm not wearing Nigerian regalia when I go to meetings. So I remember my whole drawer had Nigerian wear. Then when I stopped doing lots of business there, I came back here, I forgot about that kind of wearing. That's what happened to me. But then, now in Kenya then said, let all civil servants wear African wear on Friday. Again, your business has taken off. So I'd like to talk about at a country level. What is it at a country level? What is lacking? Somebody mentioned in my last episode, how can we have so many athletes? So many athletes. Kenyan athletes, branded, but we've been unable to sit here and manufacture our own shoe. Maybe is it, or a brand of shoe. No, you don't have to manufacture a shoe. You can have brand of shoe, okay? What is lacking? Is that correct? Even brand, not even shoe. Shoe is too complex because maybe suit has got some level of engineering of something. Let's even talk about our own material where we'd say this is Kenya. Look at our rugby shirts, great, right? Look at our Kenyan wear. What do you think is holding us back as a country? Is it we're not proudly Kenyan? Is that we don't look at a proudly African wear or a proudly Kenyan? Last episode, there's a big effort when I started to say proudly Kenyan. They said, no, we are proudly African. So what is it? What's the problem? Where are we going wrong?
I think it's a conversation that we have to do on a policy level. And let me just correct you. The business incubator we've been doing for young fashion designers, one of our fashion designers is actually producing a running shoe called Enda Running.
Oh, okay.
So our program has incubated 71 fashion designers in Kenya, 20 in Ethiopia, another 20 in Zimbabwe. So I feel like there's hope in the future. As I mentioned, there's already a young fashion designer who has not just developed over maybe the last 5 years, a Kenyan running shoe. And I think all these conversations need to happen on a policy level. With the introduction of Mutumba in the 90s, saw the decline of textile production. We were large producers of rain-fed cotton, which is a much more sustainable fiber than any other of all these other imports that we're bringing from China, from Turkey. So I think as much as, when I was growing up, every time I watched the TV, at the end of a statement, somebody would say, tunaomba serikali. And I always said as an entrepreneur, I would stop buying serikali and develop my own solutions. But then at the end of the day, if it's not coming from a policy level, Rwanda took the big step to ban Mutumba, and that has seen a major improvement in the fashion and textile sector in Rwanda. So I think it's the same in Kenya that there are certain things that you can't out-entrepreneur major failings of the government on a policy level. So I think that needs to change. And then Elungat, you asked about the pricing of art, for example, and sorry to go back to Elungat. I think things are changing, but for a long time in Kenya, when it comes to art, it is seen as entertainment more than investment, and that affects the pricing of art. If you see a lot of Europe, art is an investment. The resale value is sometimes higher than what you get the art piece for. And that's why I say opportunities like the ones we go scouting for opportunities. We took Kenyan artists to the Venice Biennale just so that they can realize that you don't have to price for the local market. I know it sounds very defeatist, but just as you said, your art piece that would sell for $20,000 US here, when you go to a platform like the Venice Biennale, it will quadruple the price. So I think sometimes, as I said, and the reality of the economy in Kenya is that we don't have that much disposable income. So that will affect, even if I understand art even as an investment, sometimes I'm not earning enough to buy your art. And that's why I'm saying let's not let's not be shy to market our art. And only when I started working with Kenyan artists did I realize there were so many of them. And when I asked them, why aren't you marketing your product online? Why aren't you telling your own story? Why aren't you taking your iPhone and recording something and posting on a daily? They say, I'm concentrating on my art. And that's why I said, then maybe you need to partner with somebody who's marketing your art, because your art is way more valuable than you think. Sometimes you can create and say, I'm worth $10,000, but actually when you put it online, you'll find an international buyer who's like, actually, this art is worth $1 million. So I think we have to tell our stories as artists, and I think that's how we shift. Long time ago, it was very hard to get our stories out there. You had to be interviewed by CNN, by New York Times, but now all of us are online. So I think even the artists themselves have to take the initiative to market their own art.
Okay. So for me, Elungat, we're waiting for. I believe that if you sold 3 pieces of $1 million art, I think what $3 million you can do with it, I would believe, based on what you're doing already with your $50,000 pieces, and you're building a whole academy in your own house.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That in itself, I wonder what could happen. It could be miraculous.
Yeah, your impact just goes that much further when you have more money in your pocket.
So the question, and you've reached that point where you've appreciated that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that brings me to the question, as we now look at, we have hit our 2-point-something hour mark. Well, our conversation started by, today's episode is when creativity becomes legacy and survival becomes a story. So we've had the survival stories. To survive, sasa tuko legacy, right? Yeah. So let us close this conversation with a legacy conversation. Where do you guys see yourselves from a legacy point of view? Where do you see yourself, Priscilla, from a legacy point of view? Where do you see yourself, Elungat? Sylvia, when you sit one day, when you're 60, what legacy do you see happening in this whole ecosystem?
For me, maybe I'd like to tell a story.
Sure. It's your story. It's your story. It's a legacy story.
There was this man in a village in Western Kenya. He was very good in herbal medicine that treats asthma. Now come this man who had a daughter who used to fall 5-6 times a day of asthma. And he had gone to all places for treatment for the daughter, and the daughter had not healed. It was getting worse. But then one day, this man with the daughter visits a relative in this one village. And in that home where this man was visiting with the daughter, there came a mzee who looked at the daughter and he was like a joke. He said, go remove this kid from school for 3 months and come to my house. Stay there with this child and I'll try treat this this sickness. And the mzee, the father of the girl looked at this mzee and said, do I take the risk? But then he said, what the hell? The kid is suffering already. Why don't I try it? So he took the girl and handed over to this old man who lived in a small hut with the family. So first month he could go get these herbs from the forest, come make it himself, mwenyewe, and then give the girl. Did that every day, morning, evening. By the end of the first month, the girl was falling maybe once in a week, twice in a month, By the end of the second month, the girl was falling maybe once in a month or in a week or never at all. Then the final month was just to keep giving the medicine as the girl is not falling at all, getting the epileptic attacks. And when the man came back, he said, okay, now I hand over your daughter back. He's already healed and everything is fine. So the father of the girl was so impressed and said, how much do I pay you? I said, I just need a suit. That was the payment that this man asked for that treatment, a suit. So the father of the girl was so impressed that he bought him several suits plus 20,000 on top. He said, thank you. But to cut the long story short is that the man died. And when he died with that medicine. So the question is, what is legacy? Pass it on to the next generation. Have people that you're training to get these skills so that it remains with somebody behind. And that is what I tell my people. When somebody comes with a design from Pinterest, I want you to produce this design exactly as it is. I say, no, we don't do that here.
Good.
Can you tilt it a bit? Can you turn it a bit? Can you add something to make it different? That is somebody else's design. Why do you want it exactly like that? Change it a little bit so that it becomes your own, you see. So the people that I've been able to mentor that I talk to, I tell them, I am a bridge. Stand on top of me and look ahead, further ahead, and produce something better. Now, when it comes to nationwide, you said nationally, what do we say? How about we reintroduce our cotton industry? When I was growing up in Western Kenya, we had cotton. Ilienda wapi? Where did it go to? The factory is closed down. Why don't we plant cotton anymore? Now, if we don't have cotton, how will we reproduce the type of garments that Sylvia was talking about? How are we going to build Kenya if our industries are dead? So empower the farmers to plant the cotton, turn the cotton into fabric, and with that fabric, we'll be able to get our legacies, get these products that we want out there, produce better designs that have never been seen by anybody, and your own. And designs are always evolving, you see. If we are going to remain stagnant, getting everything from outside, then we'll just remain where we are. I'll give you an example of Nigeria. You mentioned Nigeria clothes. Do you know where the Nigerian fabric is produced?
China.
Exactly. But does it mean that the fabric is bad? Because people will tell you, hizo vitu za China. You know, Nigeria has got its own quality of yarn. How is the yarn done? How is the quality of the fabric? Produce your own motifs, have them worked on properly, and then produce. So the factory will produce a Nigerian product. First quality, same company, but when you look at that fabric, after it is produced, it is the Nigerian quality what they used to have. However, after China produces the Nigerian fabric quality, it will produce the second line production that now comes and gets it in Kenya, whereby you'll get a 6-yard fabric will cost 1,100 or 900 shillings. Now, I'll order fabric from Nigeria. The price will start from maybe 3,000-4,000 shillings, ukiweka pamoja with the cost of tax and everything. But it has come from the same company. So what are we doing, literally? We are not taking the initiative as a country because we are more of a secular country. We don't have our own, I don't know, our design fabric culture, fashion and design culture is almost Western. It's almost Western. It's not African at all. You know? Like now what I'm putting on. I'm proud I made this myself, but this is a high quality woodin from Ghana. So how do I get woodin here? By the time it reaches here and I'm buying woodin, it's about between 8,000 and 9,000 shillings, 12. So am I going to get clients who can get that kind of, can pay for that kind of money for a piece of cloth? Maybe not. And if I get the ones who can buy, they are very few. So purchase power vis-a-vis, creating, who is going to be able to purchase what I'm creating at that particular price. So number one, we start with our industries. Let them wake up. Let us, like he said, policy level. Are we going to have our Kikomis, our Raymonds, our, I don't know which are the others, I've forgotten even the names. We had several companies that were making Rivertex, exactly. They are all gone. Okay? So how am I going to be able to create this legacy of buy Kenya, build Kenya, when I travel around Nairobi, maybe I'm having one Rivertex shop on Biashara Street. Now I go to the Rivertex shop, I'm asking for this fabric per meter, and somebody will go to Isli and get it at half that price, half the price you're selling me. So it doesn't make economic sense at all. It doesn't. So while for me I'm passionate to buy what is here and make it here, sometimes it is impossible to do that because I don't have what I want. You see, I don't have what I want to make what I want. And that is the problem you're having. However, I'm passionate about training people, training the young people who come and showing them how to adopt their own person, What can you remove this? Ukipeleka kwa fundi nguo hautapata, One of my tailors told me, stop calling me a fundi. Mimi sio fundi. Fundi don't make clothes on time. They don't, they don't have the policy whereby when you say it's Wednesday, it's Wednesday. When you say it's Thursday, it's Thursday, you see. So to me, I'm a bridge that people should stand on and see the future and see what is out there that they can create for themselves, make their own person, you see. And I'm always open to help younger people or newer people in the industry to get what they want to do or to create themselves.
So the key statement is you're a bridge. And also, I think from a policy point of view, these are key conversations. And I'm sure I have policymakers who call me and say they watch the show. And part of this conversation, because we collaborate with Nation Media, in the article of this episode, I think this is something I'm going to touch on because I can see where it connects the dots, and maybe the policymakers can read and figure out what next, right? Great conversation. I'm not sure if we go to Elungat. I know we are pressed with time. Can we have your legacy position? And then we close with Sylvia, and maybe then I can close the show.
Okay. Yeah, my legacy position is a gradual thing. Like any life that you touch is a seed you plant. If they happen to germinate and grow, that is that is legacy. But now on the national level, these workshops, I started them, for example, when somebody buys an artwork from me, I have enough money to buy my paint, equip my studio, and I have the space. So those artists that want space, they come. And sometimes somebody is so passionate in buying your artwork, you would request like, can I have to pay in installments? So the same way I can tell my young tucks that seek my strength to hold their hands, tell them, no, not this time. I'm not ready for you until I am ready. This, we can't actually, if we want to blow it up to the national level, we cannot stay silent to the government because I believe there is resources from the government that can be channeled to the art line to say, instead of depending on if Elungat has made a sale, that is when things can move. What else can we do? I really congratulate like ISK, International School of Kenya, once sponsored a workshop. Actually, twice or once? Yes, twice, I think. Okay, doesn't matter. I thank them for supporting a workshop for 5 ladies. I think twice, yes. So I had these ladies in my studio for 2 weeks where mentorship was done. Now, basically having resources easy. I can precisely say my studio has, after every 2 months, we have this workshop running, because you have a program. You can't place a program without money. So you need that kind of money to run it. And then I'm looking at, my studio is called Akachit. Akachit is a Teso word meaning nest, where potential is hatched. So I was hatched from somewhere, and I'm taking it on. And you will realize that my paintings, most of them, I paint pregnant women. So somebody asked me why. It is because we are constantly expectant. So I'm looking at it where this Akachit keeps spreading nationally, internationally, because it must outlive us. So it's not just something that I'm doing it for 2 minutes. I happen to realize, like, oh my God, I have a bigger responsibility, more than just creating art and making sales. It's deeper than just making sales. Now I'm realizing I'm using art for healing. I'm using art for therapy. I'm using art for procreation of talent and potential. So that one is open to anyone who is willing to support it at one workshop level or at a program level. Yeah.
Wow, interesting. I was just thinking, as you said, I've been hearing a lot about building the new State House. So I was thinking maybe part of it, I hope they put an African gallery for creatives, because then with all the high dignitaries that go there, it could help take off. I can imagine a massive State House with an art gallery. It could take off our art. But anyway, just that ideology. Yeah. Anyway, Sylvia?
Yeah, I think just as Elungat said, I think legacy is something you build slowly. It's not something that happens overnight. And I think on a very personal micro level, I'm very proud that, when we just started with very few artists that we were taking through a business incubation, just teaching them basic business skills. And with that, they've been able to make a living out of their art. And I think when I'm 60, I'll look back, and something that started with just 10 artists has spread to sub-Saharan Africa, and we've been able to train a lot more artists. And I think on a government level, I would say the creative economy is such an important tool for shaping a country's global outlook and marketing a country. And besides, and of course, the obvious that, it could be an economic driver. And I think, countries like South Korea that took a very strategic position to position themselves as producers of very high quality Korean film, Korean music, K-pop, and all these Korean shows on Netflix. And now tourism, they literally can't sustain the tourism numbers because of a very simple step that they took to boost the creative economy. And that's something Kenya could do. We have so many talented individuals, and that could even be how we market Kenya. And I think, just as I mentioned before, it's a policy discussion, and I think it's something that the government will have to actively do to position Kenya as a creative economy powerhouse.
Great, but you've still not told us, this is an amazing summary.
Yes.
You've still not told us where the genesis around your...
So yes, we got deep into the conversation. So what I'm wearing today is from some of the fashion designers on our program. This very beautiful piece is by a fashion designer called Epica Jewelry. When she joined our program, actually, you'll be surprised, she was just doing accessories that you could find in Maasai Market. But because of us taking her through this whole brand DNA process, she decided to start creating unique pieces. And now this is selling all over the world just because of how unique these pieces are. And then I'm also wearing earrings from another fashion designer who started in our program called We Are NBO. And so basically, as you mentioned before, that all these fashion designers, when they joined our program, they were just doing what, not really copying, as you said, not really imitating, but then they were not confident enough to produce what they want to produce deep down. So I think with the right support, we have the most amazing artists in Kenya. And as you can see, I think I was walking in here and everybody was literally saying, wow, that's a very unique piece. So I think, just as you said, let's mentor the next generation, because there's room for everybody. When you walk into an art gallery, you will not see one art piece that looks like the next, even if they've gone to the same art school. So I think it's very important that we continue mentoring them.
Fantastic. As you're saying, I was just looking at everything I'm wearing.
So I will take it upon myself that for your next episodes, we ensure that people are wearing made in Kenya. Because we all talk about made in Kenya, but then if you look, it's all European.
I'm wearing Carolina Herrera shoes.
Yes.
I'm wearing John Paul Smith.
Yeah.
I'm wearing here with polo. Hey, the only thing I have here is at least I have one title.
And I'm sure Carolina Herrera was once a young designer
100%.
who did not have the right support, and then they got the right support, they got the right marketing.
100%.
And now you in Kenya are buying their clothes all the way in another continent.
I could tell you what you're wearing, the necklace, the neck piece. If you took it to a Carolina Herrera shop, because she's into red, she has that cap. We see everything is red. You can see the laces.
Yeah,
it would go tomorrow morning.
Yes.
So it just goes to see that we are also our mindset. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And we need, as you said, the country how we rebrand our country cannot be through our politicians. It has to be through us, through what we produce. And I want to thank you for coming. This was very interesting for me. I keep learning every day. And whenever I look at this art piece, it always looks like it's a lady who has fallen. She's like this. Can you see? Like she fell.
For me, it looks like a man dancing.
Yeah, a man dancing. Or
with shorts.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the way the guy dancing like this.
Yeah, with his hands.
It looked like a lady who was fallen like this. And then it looks like a skirt. Can you see the blue is a skirt and she's fallen?
That's a short for me.
Yeah, that's a short.
The blue is a short for me as well.
But you think it's the guy is dancing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, it can be what you want it to be.
Yes.
Exactly.
So it can be what you want it to be. And thanks for showing up. Mm-hmm. I think it's gonna be. I think every day I'm learning. I'm excited every day I come here. I say, wow, it's like my knowledge level, and I'm hope the audience also get inspired and learn from your stories. When people say you're who, where you came from, it's interesting, and that shapes a lot in your journey, your story. Elungat, your story. Sylvia talking about Japan and how Japan, staying in Japan for a year, it's transformed your quality levels, what you see in your gap year. That's incredible, because that maybe has shaped your level of quality, detail, that kind of stuff. So I want to thank you, Priscilla, Sylvia, and Elungat for coming and showing up, and for this episode, which is really part of the journey, creativity journey, and hopefully will inspire a lot of other people and the next generation of entrepreneurs, not the current ones, to be able to take this forward. So, asante sana.
Sorry, one last thing.
Sure.
I meet very many people who say they don't know where to find Kenyan artists, fashion designers, graphic artists, all of that. So I just want to mention that the platform that we have on Instagram, all social media platforms, is at @triomedia_KE, so Trio Media Kenya. And we highlight artists and fashion designers and people in the creative economy space all the time, so that I don't meet people who are using the excuse that I don't know any artist personally, therefore I cannot buy Kenyan art or Kenyan fashion. We have that platform where we highlight, and we have, I don't know, right now over 100 artisans and producers from Kakuma refugee camp to Nairobi to all the other places. So if you could follow that page, you'll be able to see a lot of the amazing work that is being done in Kenya.
You just give us a little bit, one, what we call a pushback. We're
Yes.
going to put it there, so
Yeah.
in our production team, so that with a QR code or something where people can follow
access
through.
the art.
And same thing on your art,
Yeah.
on your dressing and what you guys do. I'd really like to put it on our show. And finally, Elungat, some of your pieces, people can really understand what's going on. Right? Thanks for that. So I want to thank everybody. Thanks a lot again. And thanks for showing up. And this episode will definitely inspire others. And it forms our second last episode for season 1. We also just have one more episode, episode 10. Then we close season 1, and we go to season 2. But I want to thank all of you and for tuning up and showing up and supporting our industries. Because as you can see, there's a lot we don't know. And this show is also about leveraging and showing what is possible as a country. Entrepreneurs need to be celebrated. And some of these entrepreneurs like yourselves are the people who are going to push this country going forward. Asanteni, people, and thanks a lot, and God bless you. All right? Thank you.
Thank you too for having us.